There's a ton of really broken and effective towers with bosses and balloons. Everybody who beats bosses knows that like more glaives is practically required for good Bloonarius runs, just because the cleanup is so crazy. Or like I guess you could use Balloon Solver. And you know a lot of people love to use the Elite Defender on the tier 1 and 2 bosses, depending on, you know, like if Ninja Kiwi decides they're clinically insane and wants us to give like 500% health or whatnot. And you know you get the goat sticky bomb. You already know every hard boss has a Flying Fortress in it somewhere. And you can run like Purple Moab for the extra damage buff, you could do Glue Storm for the extra damage, like Blazing Sun, super cheap and it's tier 5. Tier 5s are great, just in general. Like, you can use the Mad, like there's a lot of bosses where you can use Mad on tier 3 instead of having to get a Paragon, as long as you have some other pretty good towers, like maybe a Master Bomber or something like that. There's absolute one undisputed GOAT for bosses, it's gotta be the Monkeyopolis. This thing just makes you an unreasonable amount of money, and with an unreasonable amount of money, you could do pretty much whatever the hell you want. You just get the keys to the city. It's literally just handed to you on a silver platter. But for some odd, strange, unknown, inconspicuous reason, not a soul wants to talk about the science behind the tower. Nobody wants to know what banana farms you should sacrifice to make the most money. Nobody wants to know what the most cost-effective method is. What should you do? How do I use this tower? Don't worry, you mindless little worm that follows everything you're told on the internet. I'm gonna tell you today. Just because, for some reason, nobody else is interested in doing so. You know, maybe I should have taken that as a hint that nobody wants to see this video. Again, with the Monkeyopolis, obviously you need a village and a farm. The villages and farms aren't exactly cheap, but you can use the bottom path, first 2 upgrades, to make other things cheaper. The problem with going for these bottom path things to make things cheaper is that for every farm you want to add to your Monkeyopolis, it will add an additional $5,000 to the total cost, even if they're not upgraded. And upgrading them to expensive farms does not change the price. That does not mean that it doesn't change the amount of money you earn per Monkeyopolis crate. If I was to even have all of these farms without upgrades, 5 farms, and upgrade it to a Monkeyopolis, and then start the round, we can see we're barely making $140 per crate, which is not great. We make $1,400 a round, and as you can see, we spent a lot of money on this, so it's just not a very effective way to do it. But if we were to do a single banana research facility, which is only 5,000 instead of 25,000, and we start a round, we can see that we're making $340 a crate, and we've already surpassed the $1,400 a round that we made with all of those farms last time. We've more than doubled it. Cross path does not really matter from what I can see. If I were to do this tier 4 with the valuable bananas upgrade, that is the superior cross path, and then get our Monkeyopolis, you'd find that we have the exact same amount of money at the end of the round, and we're getting that $340 per crate that we did last time. You can see 3,400. It's the same. So cross-pathing does not seem to matter, but what about the main primary tiers? If we were to sacrifice a marketplace at tier 3 to the Monkeyopolis and start the round, we're making $140 per crate. This is the same as we were making with 5 tier 1 farms, and we get $1,400 a round. What about something like a bank? A bank doesn't really make much money per round, right? So in theory, it shouldn't be as much as the marketplace, but in reality, it's the exact same. 1,400 around. Okay. How about the top path? Plantation makes so many bananas, maybe it will affect the amount of boxes created by the Opolis. It is not. 140 per box, and it's the same amount of money at the end of the round. 1,400. So, if cross-pathing doesn't matter, and these tier 3s don't matter, what does matter? Obviously, the price of the actual upgrades matters, which in theory would suggest that you would want the marketplace, as it's the cheapest. But you also have to consider the fact that the Monkeyopolis itself is rather expensive, and to get there you're going to need income. A banana plantation, despite being more expensive than a marketplace, does have these first 2 tiers that will give you more money, whereas the marketplace does not. So you will be able to get to a plantation faster, even though it is more costly. Unless you already have the money, in which case you should sell the marketplace instead. From what I can see, there's almost never a reason to go for a bank, unless there's some, like, absolute money maxing creep that can place 5 banks immediately and then just pull all the money out and then sacrifice them. But even then, it is probably more efficient to get a single tier 4, as noted earlier with the Banana Research Facility, that seems to provide much better cash income. But what about the other 2 tier 4s? If the tier 3s are the same, what about the other 2 tier 4s? And how about tier 5s? I'll go ahead and do another Banana Central, or not Banana Central, Banana Research Facility, BRF, so that we can see how much money this makes per box and per round. We're making 340 per box, and 3,400 per round. And just to show, cross-pathing does absolutely jack diddly. We'll do the exact same thing to see that we're making 340 per thing. And we still make that same 3,400 per round, despite having the valuable bananas cross-path. Cross-pathing doesn't work. But again, what about other paths in general? Transitioning to a central marketplace, which is far cheaper than a banana research facility, and by this point, because the earlier cross-paths, or because the earlier path is also much cheaper than banana plantation greater production and increased production, a central market will end up being thousands cheaper, even though you will make more money faster with your banana plantation top path. So it appears even if you don't have the money and you are building this from scratch, if you want to go with the tier 4, you should probably get the central market, and you should absolutely not get the bank, even though the bank seems to be the cheapest tier 4. And we'll get into that in a second because there is a glaring problem with the bank. But for now, getting a Monkeyopolis with this tier 4, we can see that we're not making 340 per box. We're making instead 280, which is a vast increase from the tier 3s we noticed earlier, at least in this single department. We have 2,800 per round. It's cheaper, it costs less, but you don't get as much money as the top path. So is it better or worse? Before we talk about that, let's talk about the bank. Because the bank is probably the single most disappointing Monkeyopolis thing I've ever seen in my entire life. On paper, it's very cheap. It is the cheapest cross path to get to a tier 4 by a landslide. Look at that, 7,200. I didn't even know this thing was this cheap. It's so ridiculously cheap, and the loan ability is great. You'd think you could simply build the bank, use the ability, and then use the money to buy Monkeyopolis. And that should work flawlessly, except it doesn't, because Nejikiwi aren't stupid. And you'll get 220 per box, which is kinda trash. It's not incredible. But you just won't make as much as any of the other cross paths do. You won't make as much as Central Market, you won't make nearly as much as BRF. Remember, that should be 2,800 and I think 3,400. It's a big difference. You can get the Opolis up quicker, and you can get money back with this, but you'll also have this debt you have to pay back, which really sucks. So, I don't really like the bank cross path at all for this. Quickly diving into tier 5s. Any tier 5 at all, literally all of them, you just, oh, okay, I'm terrible, but it's okay. You just can't use them. You cannot sacrifice them to a Monkeyopolis, and even if you try to trick it with a normal farm, it will only eat the normal farm. You just can't do it. So don't even bother. So if cross-pathing does not work, but tier 4s seem to change the amount of money it makes, tier 3s don't seem to change the amount of money it makes, what about 1 and 2s? A tier 2 greater production, which should ideally be the best, right? Because you're going to get the most money back faster with extra bananas. You would think this would be good, but in reality, it's only 120 per box and actually gives you the exact same amount of money as a normal 000 farm. Ideally, we're gonna call this low tier farm, where we just sell maybe 1 or 2 farms, and they're not high quality. This is often called a Miniopolis instead of a Monkeyopolis because it's small. It doesn't make a lot of money. And as you can see here, we didn't spend a crazy amount into it. It's about that page of a banana research facility because of the earlier cross paths that will bring it up to that level. But even this Miniopolis should pay itself off faster than a banana research facility, which makes it better than a banana research facility. For bosses, this should be what you want as early as you can get it. A lot of people might know about discount villages and how lovely they are, but you can actually stack discount villages. You can see there's a ×1 if I bring a third one in here. For every single village, I'm making buying more of these cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, until I'm stacking 3 on the one I want to be my Monkeyopolis. The other good thing about stacking villages is obviously placing and upgrading your farms will also keep these benefits. You can definitely place them better than I did, but these go to tier 3s, so my banana plantation under only 2 of these is 2340, when in normal it'd be 3000. It's significantly cheaper. It's drastically cheaper, and obviously Monkey Town has lost $3,000 off of its total cost as well. The good thing about these is even though technically this wouldn't make your money back by buying them, after you buy Monkey Town for tier 3 and sell the other discount villages, you do make your money back. So you have to have a little bit more money just to be able to place them all than you would if you were to just go straight for it, but you will get more money back in return. And that money can go directly back into another farm after you buy your Monkeyopolis. Because of course, the Monkeyopolis gains the same benefits from Monkey Town and Monkey City that increases cash generation in radius. Moving on to multiple farms per radius, what is the best cross paths, or just the best generalized farms to sacrifice to a Monkeyopolis instead of just doing one for a Miniopolis? In my opinion, going for the tier 4 central market is a really good option to just get one down. If you just want one, I would suggest doing this. If you are like so absolutely rich out of your mind, then as many BRFs as you could possibly fit in the Monkeyopolis' range is probably going to be the best for you. Even though right now it looks like I've used as much as I possibly can, you could actually use another village to increase the range of your Monkeyopolis to possibly get more farms in, like so. But you could also use the somewhat new Desperado Middle Path ability, the Deadeye ability, to increase the range of your monkey village even further. And then you can place more farms. This is a temporary buff, but you can then place more farms. The other thing about the Middle Path Desperado is that the Bounty Hunter ability is better than the Deadeye ability. It increases it, you can see the color of the hat changes. The range is drastically increased, and we can now place farms in places that we couldn't before while still getting the effect of the village. The Monkeyopolis price continues to increase, seemingly infinitely to an extent. Outside of this, there's more things you can do. The Middle Path Overclock does actually increase the range of the monkey village, even if it is only temporary. However, the Ultra Boost, on the other hand, increases it permanently by a very tiny minuscule margin every single time you use it. With the help of a couple extra abilities, eventually you'll be able to get like an unreasonable amount of range on this thing, and you can practically get global range as long as it's placed in a solid position. These are the types of Monkeyopolises that you want to use if you're going to go for like a really difficult boss and you want like a Goliath Doom ship or something like that. Something really, really expensive. Most cases for bosses, you're just never, ever, ever going to need anything even remotely as large as this, but we'll go ahead and do it for science and see how much money an $80,000 Monkeyopolis upgrade makes. As you can see here, it factors in the amount of money that you spent on your farms as well. So even though its value is $365,000, we've actually spent nearly $500,000 just on buying this thing. So let's see how much money it makes in a single round. Currently, we're making over 3,880 per box, and in one round we make 38,800, which is an absolutely insane number. That is like unreasonable. Of course, alongside this, you should be placing your farms around this as well to get the increased cash production benefits from the Monkeyopolis' previous tiers, Monkey City and Monkey Town. The total price of the suggested Miniopolis will be $21,400 after you factor in the cost of all of the Monkey Village upgrades, the Monkey Village itself, and the 000 banana farm. Using the same formula, all we have to do is find the number of every single reliable or reasonable cross path of the banana farm to figure out how much money we would spend on each different cross path. And then we simply need to note down how much money the new Monkeyopolis makes per farm. In my opinion, I don't see a reason to ever sacrifice tier 1s, 2s, or 3s to a Miniopolis. Unless you just want to get there faster, you could technically use, you know, your banana plantation or marketplaces just to get there faster, to get to the Miniopolis faster. Ideally, the big money comes from sacrificing tier 4s, and the central market seems to be the best price to performance that you can get for it. The price of a BRF is $23,100, so it's just a little more than the Miniopolis. Maybe you'd get a Miniopolis a little bit before tier 1 spawns, and run that until a little bit before tier 2 spawns. get your defense up, and then halfway through the tier 2, you would switch out to a better Monkeyopolis that uses central markets or that uses banana research facilities. Because the central market, its entire crosspath is under $20,000, and of course you'll have your 15% discounts from your monkey business and monkey commerce, I would absolutely suggest going for this tier 4 when you want to sacrifice a farm to a Monkeyopolis. And if you want to sacrifice many farms to a Monkeyopolis, I would just try and get as many banana research facilities as you can afford. If these are too pricey, or you just want to get, say, 2 farms instead of 3 farms down, I would still recommend going for just 2 central marketplaces. It's only going to increase by $10,000, but the amount of money you make for this Monkeyopolis will be much, much nicer. This time we're making 460 per just for sacrificing 2 farms, which is pretty solid. If you have an unreasonable amount of money, you should go for the top path. If you don't have an unreasonable amount of money and you're only trying to sacrifice 1 to 2 farms, you should go for the central market. At the very beginning of the game, if you have the money already, you should just get 1000 Minneapolis. If you don't have the money already, it is reasonable to go for a marketplace or a banana plantation so you earn more money on your way to affording the Monkeyopolis' price point. Moving away from just the Monkeyopolis for a second, there's a lot of other great ways that you can farm an unreasonable amount of money in this game, and you can utilize the greed that is shown in the Bible. If you're going to boat farm in bosses, oftentimes Ninja Kibu will put the boss on a map with a lot of water so that you can use boat towers like Navark or like the Nautic Siege Court. You don't need to. You can instead use the water for Trade Empire, Favorite Trade Merchantments, and you can just abuse boat farming as much as possible. If you're boat farming at all, there's really just not a reason to go for banana research facility, or sometimes even banana central, just because of how massive the price tag is. When you're boat farming, you can use central markets, and every central market you place will increase the merchantman's income by 10%. This does not just include the tier 3s. When you upgrade it to a tier 4 or tier 5, they will also keep that 10% bonus. It does not just magically go away after the upgrade. Of course, you should always have bigger radius on your Monkeyopolis, but I find a lot of people just not purchasing jungle drums. Jungle drums won't do anything for the farms themselves, but when the boss comes and you want to place, say, your Elite Defender or your Mad Down to handle the boss, these towers will make more pops via the Monkey Town upgrade. When you want to build a farm setting for your game, you should find something kind of open, ideally like on the right here, because you can't really place these farms in the trees. So this would be a good spot. So we could put farm here, 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 and maybe with some range upgrades we can put it somewhere else as well. Monkey Meadow is surprisingly not a great map for farming. Even though there is good spots to place farms, there's just not great spots for Monkeyopolis. So I would absolutely leave room for Druid, because even if you can't get to Spirit of the Forest in your boss event, Jungle's Bounty or even Druid of the Jungle are just so absolutely powerful towers, especially Druid of the Jungle for price of performance in early game. But Jungle's Bounty is just such a good tower. You can make so much money with this stupid thing. It is kind of ridiculous. After you've got your Monkeyopolis and your Druids and whatnot, the cross path or pathing in general for your farms doesn't really matter. Ideally, you're just going to want 1 of each tier 5. Most people will skip the Monkeyonomics, but it's actually really good. If you want to use Banana Salvage, it will automatically collect, but if you want more money and you want to manually deal with your farms, the top path is better for cross-pathing. The banks are good, they just require a little bit of micro, and they're a little difficult to use, but they are still very good, and they're rather cheap in comparison, at least to tier 4. To tier 5, it's a little bit of a different story. The Monkey Ball Street will always be the cheaper option there. Remember, if you have boat farms, ideally you're going to want to get these central markets to increase them, as many of them as you can. If you don't have boats, the top path Banana Research Facility and Banana Central is better. When you upgrade to Banana Central, you'll notice nothing really changes here, but if I get a Banana Research Facility, they are buffed by this Banana Central. So again, if you have boats, you want to go with central markets to buff your boats. If you don't have boats, you want to get Banana Research Facilities and a Banana Central to buff as many of these Banana Research Facilities as possible. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the greed spoken about in the Bible. Thank you for watching. Except it's not, though. Because one thing I failed to mention is despite having an incredible Monkeyopolis, or even a terrible Monkeyopolis, or any Monkeyopolis at all, if the map supports it, such as Cubism, you can actually go somewhere else and then create more farms. But there can be something different about these farms. The Monkey Wall Street specifically, and only the Tier 5 tower, will pick up the income of the banana farms near it. And this works for even BRFs or even a Banana Central. I've thrown a lot of different ways and like numbers at your head here today, and like different methods on how to make money. But the most effective thing that I could ever show you, or that anybody could ever show you, guys, the Ultra Boost and the Banana Central is the most overpowered farming method I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And I watched people spam Chinook crates to make money like 4 years ago. A 10x Ultra Boosted Banana Central literally makes more money than like the majority of Monkeyopolises I end up making in my boss runs, even if they're like surrounded in farms and have been absolutely maxed out with dead eyes and Ultra Boost range and as many BRFs as I can fill. Guys, this is ridiculous. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. This is the stupidest tower interaction I've ever seen in my life, and for some odd reason, the Ultra Boost is like the freakiest tower in the game because it increases the range of the Monkey Village, but it doesn't seem to increase the range of the Wall Street, which would have been fantastic because that meant I could fit more BRFs in the range of the Wall Street and not have to waste my monkey money on banana farmers. Turns out I wasted like a long time doing math and writing numbers down when you should just be placing this thing in your runs and then boosting the living hell out of it. So